بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. Inshallah, we're going to continue in our reading in the book Al-Madhhabiyya. We reached up to page number 69. Let us start with Al-Fatiha to the soul of Imam al-Sheikh Muhammad Saeed Ramadan al-Bouti. Al-Fatiha. أهلا بأحمد السلام عليكم حبيبي. Now, go ahead.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, Al-Ghazali said in Al-Mustafa, in the chapter
Al-Mustasfa is a book in Usul al-Fiqh. So we read the works, or we talked about the works of Imam al-Ghazali. He has books in al-Fiqh like Al-Basit, Al-Wasit, Al-Wajiz, Al-Khulasa. And his famous book in Usul al-Fiqh is called Al-Mustasfa. It is a very important book in the science of the fundamentals of jurisprudence, Usul al-Fiqh. Now,
in the chapter Taqleed and Fatwa Seeking, while speaking of the necessity of taqleed for the layman, we find proof of that in two ways. First, the consensus of the companions who used to give fatwas to laymen without asking them to attain the level of ijtihad. This has been known by necessity and through multiple transmissions carried out by scholars and laymen among them.
Here is something Al-Imam al-Ghazali, known as Hujjatul Islam, when he talked about at-taqleed and seeking fatwa, he said that the common person, he cannot do anything but taqleed. And then he mentioned that this consensus of the Sahaba, that they would give the common people legal rulings without them having to attain the level of ijtihad. And Imam al-Ghazali mentioned that this is something that is necessarily known, right? And it reached us by multiple chains of transmission from the scholars, and even the common people know this, that the person who's not at the level of mujtahid has to follow that mujtahid. And this is really the point of the entire text. And he's just attacking it or approaching it from multiple routes. And I think by now we should be able to read much faster because the point is clear. And this is just giving details to each point. And what Imam Sheikh al-Bouti is mentioning is showing you from each aspect, from the Quran, from the practice of the Sahaba, from their consensus, from the Tabi'een, and then mentioning what the great scholars of Usul al-Fiqh, these are the foremost scholars of Usul, they mentioned in their books about this subject. So it's like nothing left after he finishes. Naam.
Al-Amidi said in his book Al-Ihkam.
And this Al-Amidi is another famous scholar in Aqidah, Ilm al-Kalam, and in Usul al-Fiqh. And his book Al-Ihkam is in the science of Usul al-Fiqh. Naam.
As for consensus, laymen during the time of the companions and the time of those who came after them always used to seek fatwas and religious rulings from a mujtahid, independent jurist, who would answer their questions without pointing out the evidence they based it upon. They, i.e., the companions, did not forbid them from doing that, which was a consensus for the legal validity of a layman to follow the mujtahid in absolute
And
terms.
here, when he mentions that in the time of the Sahaba and the companions, before there were differences of opinion, right? Right? قبل حدوث المخالفين, right? Before مخالفين, before there were people who descended from their way, that was the common practice, right? It was an agreement among them that the lay person would follow the mujtahid, that by consensus is something that is permissible. Now,
Those who issued fatwas in the time of the companions were of a limited number. They were known for fiqh, narration, and were talented in inference. Most famous among them were the four
meaning
caliphs.
inference, meaning they knew how to derive legal rulings from the primary text when the primary texts were not explicit and definitive. Keep in mind. So they were knowledgeable in al-fiqh, they had the understanding of the religion. In al-riwayah, so they knew the different hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and al-istinbat, they were able to extract and derive legal rulings from the primary texts of the Quran and the Sunnah when those primary texts were not explicit and definitive. That's a skill, right? So you have a verse of the Quran or a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, which is not explicit and definitive in terms of a legal ruling. And then there is a skill of a scholar to go to those texts and extract the legal ruling from them without it being explicit. That is a field that is really the most difficult work of the mujtahid, to take the rulings from texts that could bear other possible meanings and arrive at the exact or the precise ruling or the correct ruling. Now,
Most famous among them were the four caliphs, Abdullah ibn Masud,
so the four khulafa, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Sayyidina Ali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhum. Yeah, istinbat. It
Abu,
means to extract legal rulings from the primary text.
Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, Mu'adh ibn Jabal, Ubay ibn Ka'b, and Zayd ibn Thabit. As for the followers of their schools and fatwas, there were
So
more.
now here, أما المقلدون, those who follow them, right? Go ahead.
As for the followers of their schools and fatwas, there were more that can be counted.
And here, and he says uh, that those followers fil madhab wal fatwa, not only in the fatwa, also in their schools, because each of those companions, their legal rulings as a collective is a school, is a madhab in and of itself, the madhab of those companions. The ones who follow them among the companions, they cannot be enumerated with so many of them. Now,
During the time of those who succeeded the companions, the circle of ijtihad widened.
which is during the time of at-tabi'in. So who succeeded the companions? At-tabi'in, the followers of the companions, they're direct students. Naam. So the circle of ijtihad, it became wider, right? Go ahead.
And Muslims followed the same path of the companions of the Prophet. ﷺ. However, in this period, ijtihad was represented by two schools, the school of Ra'i, opinion, and the school of Hadith. The factors for this we mentioned when we quoted Ibn Khaldun.
So
Among
the factors of ijtihad, right? So he said the reason why it widened to those schools, بسبب العوامل الاجتهادية, because the ijtihad factors that play into that, those things that relate to ijtihad are reasons for that. So it's not based on the primary text itself. It's really deriving the rulings and the different ways to do that. That's what caused the two schools. Now,
Among the leading Imams of the school of Ra'i in Iraq were Alqama ibn Qais
I can't let you say Iraq, Iraq.
Iraq. I'm sorry, Iraq. Alqama ibn Qais al-Nakhai, is that right?
Mhm.
Masruq ibn Ajda al-Hamadani, Hamadani, Ibrahim
Al-Hamadani.
Hamadani, Ibrahim ibn Zayd al-Nakhai, and Sa'id ibn Jubair. The majority of the people in and around Iraq had no problem following this school.
Now here
Among
you go. So you have these among a tabi'in. And here's one of the things we're going to have to learn. Because by the modern day movement of Al-Wahhabiyya, who call themselves Salafiyya, let's not mix the two. They are the same. As-Salafiyya hum al-Wahhabiyya, right? Those people who say we're Salafi are Wahhabi. Don't mix them. They are the same. And don't take that as an insult or a slander. No, we just identifying things clearly, right? Sometimes I meet people and they knew me for a long time. So they call me by my government name. I never get mad, right? When I was a kid, that might cause a fight, right? But as I got older, I realized that's what they know me. They're identifying me by what they know me. They don't mean to insult me. None of that, right? So someone would call and they call me by my government name. They may not even know my Muslim name, right? They just familiar with me from a long time. So before I changed my name, they knew me as this person, right? So look at it in that context. All we're doing is when we say Salafi or Wahhabiyya, we know by their original name, Al-Wahhabiyya. It's the same persons or the same people. They just changed their name. So don't look at it as an offensive in this case, right? So what reason why I mentioned them? Because a lot of people who follow and call themselves so-called Salafi, they know nothing about the Salaf. Besides the name Salafi, or we follow as Salaf as-Salih, but if you ask them who were as Salaf as-Salih, who were the leaders of the ulama of as Salaf as-Salih, and what was their methodology, they have no idea, right? So here they're mentioning some of the Salaf as-Salih who were the main scholars in Iraq and in their practice. And that's helpful because if you're following the Salaf, these were the leaders of the Salaf in this place, in this time. They were the greatest Imams, and this was their practice. So if you're following the Salaf, their habit was what? That they had certain scholars, and then the rest of the people, they followed their madhabs without any censoring of that. And those four Imams inherited their knowledge directly from those people who were those foremost scholars. And that was their practice, right? So if you really, really follow the Salaf, then that would be your practice with ease. And another one of their practices that they had unbroken chains of narration. And today, you're claiming to follow the Salaf with a broken chain of narration. So that's not the way of the Salaf. The Salaf were concerned about the chain of narration and how they narrated and from whom they narrated, where you don't have such a thing at all. So what kind of following the Salaf is that? Naam, go ahead.
Among the leading Imams of the school of Hadith in the Hijaz were Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib al-Makhzumi,
Mhm,
Urwa ibn al-Zubair,
mhm.
Salim ibn Abdullah ibn Umar, Sulaiman ibn Yasar,
Do
and
you know? Do you know this Salam ibn Abdullah ibn Umar. You know who Umar is here? Umar al-Khattab. Umar ibn al-Khattab, excuse me. So Salam is the son of Abdullah ibn Umar al-Khattab. So there was a scholar whose father was a scholar, whose father was Amir al-Mu'mineen.
And Nafi.
So you
The
said
freed
Sulaiman
servant
ibn Yasar?
Sulaiman ibn Yasar
Mhm.
and Nafi, the freed servant of Abdullah ibn Omar. The majority of people in and around the Hijaz also had no problem following this school. There were many arguments and
So
disputes.
here you have in Iraq great scholars among at-Tabi'een, and these had their schools and people follow them. In Hijaz, you had great scholars, they had their schools and people follow them.
There were many arguments and disputes between the leaders of those two schools. However, these arguments did not concern the laymen or those who were of a lesser stature in knowledge and jurisprudence. Fiqh. They used to follow taqlid whomever they wanted or whoever was closer to them. The arguments those imams had did not necessarily reflect, nor did they incur any responsibility on the illiterate who were excused.
Right. Or we don't say illiterate. Al-Jahil al-Ma'zur, we should say, the unlearned person who's excused. They don't have to be illiterate. Right? They just weren't learning. They weren't at the level of the scholars who were having these discussions. So they stayed in their lane, you know? So they were unlearned. Al-Jahil literally means ignorant, meaning unlearned. They didn't know. And because of them not knowing, they were excused, right? They were not scholars. So that wasn't, so they followed any of those scholars who were available to them, which goes to show you when someone asks, how do I choose a madhab? The availability of learning the school, because all of them are valid. So whichever one is available for you to learn your religion with a teacher, as it was their case, then you follow them with no censoring of you, right? No.
Thirdly, clear rational
So
evidence.
stop here for a minute. Are there any questions about what we covered? Be honest. If you have questions, shoot, because we're dissecting a lot of fallacies that are spread among us. After this, we should have no la madhabis existing among us. Like, there should be not one person that says, I don't follow a madhab. If after these classes, you still talking about you don't follow a madhab, something is seriously wrong, and we need to discuss it. No, Imam Ahmed was among later, the scholars of Iraq, right? And they always had their scholarly disagreements, as was mentioned, right? But as for the common people, you know, they had no concern in that, right? Just like us, if you want to look at it, doctors are always talking about different ways of medicine and treatment of diseases. For the common people, that stuff, their arguments don't concern us. We want the result. That's it, right? And most of us, if we tried to go into their terminology, we would be lost anyway. It's the same case. The same exact case. So we're good, right? No? I want to clear these things up, so don't be shy. If you have some things in your mind, shoot them. Let them loose. This is your chance. Okay, go ahead.
Thirdly, clear rational evidence based on reason. We express that by citing what the scholar Sheikh Abdullah Duraz said. Rational evidence in this is to state that if someone who does not possess the qualification for ijtihad
So
is
wait
faced
a minute. So we gave dalil from the Quran, from the Sunnah, from the practice of the companions, from the practice of the tabi'een and the atba'it tabi'een. So that is all the transmitted evidences that we know. And now Sheikh al-Buti is going to mention the intellectual proof, because for Ahl Sunnah you have a dalil al-naqli, you have the textual proof, and then you have dalil al-aqli, you have the intellectual proof, and the intellectual proof is supported by the textual proof, right? So we got all the textual proof. It's clear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Let there be from every group a portion that remains to understand the deen, to teach those who, when they return from the battlefield, right? We got the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam telling the companions the cure for ignorance is asking questions when they made bad legal judgments. We got him when he sent Mu'adh ibn Jabal, telling Mu'adh ibn Jabal that he was allowed to make ijtihad, and that those people followed his ijtihad without any censoring. Then we have the practice of the Sahaba, the few among them who were muftis among them, and the rest that follow them. And the same case with the Tabi'een and the two schools of Ahl Sunnah, meaning Ahl Ra'i and Ahl Hadith in Hijaz and Iraq, and their consensus of how they practice. And now he wants to talk about it from the intellectual standpoint. From the intellectual standpoint. Now,
Rational evidence is that in this is to state that if someone who does not possess the qualification for ijtihad is faced with a situation regarding a legal issue, there are two choices to make in that case. He may either not be obligated to do anything at all, in which case this goes against...
He's not going to worship at all. Right? Go ahead.
In which case this goes against consensus altogether. But if he does practice, he may either look closely into the evidence upon which the ruling is based. The other choice for him is to follow someone else. The first choice, looking into the evidence, is prohibited because it will lead him and the rest of creation to look into the evidence of every issue and busy them away from earning a living, tending to worldly professions and manufacturing, which will in turn lead them to the destruction of worldly life, farming, and family. Completely removing taqlid, following, is the peak of burden and difficulty, so nothing remains but taqlid. And
right, so when you leave that, he said, right, that will lead to raf'ul taqlid, lifting, moving taqlid, where no one was going to follow no one. And he said this would be the complete ending, like the extreme of difficulty. No one's going to follow no one. Everyone, and we see the confusion we have in our own communities when that happens. Show me your dalil. And everybody don't listen to nobody till you got a proof. Nobody follows nobody. And no one's qualified to deduce proofs. A disaster waiting to happen, right? And that's why I said the result of that, no one following another one, will lead to the most extreme end of difficulty. Because no one's following no one. Everyone has their opinion, even if they don't qualify to have an opinion. Let me say this, and please put it up. Let me see how we put this. Everyone does not have a right to having an opinion in legal matters. Or let's say Islamic legal matters. Put that up, please. Everyone does not have the right to having an opinion in Islamic legal matters. Can we put that up and copy it so it's visual? Everyone does not have a right to have an opinion in Islamic legal matters. Who's the fast typer? Then everyone can copy. Right. Everyone does not have the right to have an opinion in Islamic legal matters. Could we all copy that? That's extremely important that we understand that. because this false concept that was given to us by Al-Wahhabiyya, who don't follow madhabs, is that everyone has a right to have their opinion in Islamic legal matters. No, you're not qualified to have an opinion, right? The opinion only comes when you have the qualifications to have an opinion. You don't have qualifications, your opinion don't count. My brother, he's crazy. He says this to me all the time. We'll be talking about different issues. Like he's a super parent, like in guiding a child through education and college and all that stuff. He's into that, right? How to get scholarships and how to, he's just into that stuff, right? And he was very successful. All of his kids went to D1, Howard, historically black college and university, uh, you know, kids very successful in that process. He did a great job. May Allah reward him for his work. So when I'm talking about, that's not my area. I'm do religious stuff, right? So as my daughter's going through college, he's the one who wants to tell me how to do it, right? And he's my older brother, so you can imagine what that's like, right? And so sometimes when I would be objecting to some of the things he's saying, he's like, listen, when it comes to religion, I never object to what you say. That's your field. This is my field. Could you please stop objecting and listen? In other words, you don't have a right to have an opinion. You don't know what you're talking about, right? So this is the case. Sometimes we out of our league, and we must understand that. So when it comes to religious Islamic legal matters, we should leave it to the people who know it. We don't qualify, right? Let me give y'all a test. Dang, what is it? I forgot. I can't. See, told you I don't know. There is some program, especially for sports, just off. Man, I forgot it. See? But anyway, I'm going to find it out because some of us, I think, is important, and probably most of us don't even know it. But it would help our kids in high school, especially those kids who play sports, that they can get a full ride to college. But there's certain things you need to do, right? And they don't teach our kids this in school. So the guidance counselors don't tell our kids, especially in our school districts, they don't tell them nothing about it. And by the time it's time for our kids to go to college, or university, they didn't fulfill these things. So the possibility of them getting a free ride or a full scholarship gets wiped out, right? I'm going to find that out. Remind me. I'm going to ask them so we can share it. And maybe you can help in your school districts to make sure they're doing that. Because some of our kids, our children, that's their only opportunity. They may have to go through sports. No. If a mukallid gives you some knowledge about the religion, is it proper to ask that person, what is the dalil? No. No, it's not proper. Why? Then now the question comes back. Why is it not proper? If you've been listening, all of us, not just Sister Khadija, even though she asked the question, it's a question for all of us. So the answer, if a mukallid gives you some knowledge about the religion, is it proper to ask the person, what is the dalil? The answer is no. Why? So y'all should be able to answer that. Why? No, you don't ask them what's the dalil. So come on, everyone jump in. You should be able to answer this question with ease by now. It's very simple and logical. If you were listening, it's easy. Now it's time to apply what we learned. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. You understand? MashaAllah. You understand? He doesn't know the dalil. Other than that, he wouldn't be a mukallid. He doesn't know. So what you may ask him, from where did you learn the ruling? You're not asking him for dalil. If you didn't trust the person, you would say, from where did you learn the ruling, right? And he would point you to the relied upon book or the qualified scholar. That's where he's going to stop. You follow my point? He's going to point you to the relied upon book or a qualified scholar about the issue. That scholar may be a mujtahid scholar, or maybe a scholar who is muqallid, who is more knowledgeable than him. And that scholar would point you to the mujtahid. As for the muqallid, he's not going to have dalil. And even if he gives you a dalil, the dalil is not necessarily a proof for the ruling, because he doesn't do istinbat. He doesn't extract rulings. And if he is doing it, he's out of his place. His job is what? To follow. He doesn't ask for the dalil. That's not his position. So if you understood the concept fully, we all understand, we know why we're never going to ask a muqallid, what's your dalil? And the fact that he don't give you a dalil is no evidence for you to say, see, he's not following Quran and Sunnah. That's not his job. He doesn't know, right? He doesn't know. He's not supposed to know. And if he does know, then alhamdulillah, he only probably know in a few cases. And you still need to check his dalil because it may be wrong, right? All right, do you want me, I'm not going to get sidetracked. Before we end, tomorrow, I'm not going to do that today because it will take us out. I'm going to spend a few minutes tomorrow and I'm going to show you a scholarly way to approach this hadith and show you the foolishness of the Wahhabiyya, so-called Salafiyya, talking about where is Allah, right? A'udhu billah. Allah exists without a place. And I'm going to just give you example. He pointed me to their famous hadith about the shepherd girl. So just in the narration, I'm going to show you because we're common people. Khadijah, this is not you. Please don't take it. I'm just sharing us, right? So don't take it like I'm talking to you. I'm just giving an example. Scholarly or from a knowledgeable way. If I looked at the question, it has several errors just in the question and several mistakes in the question or in the statement, right? Number one, Salafis are Wahhabiyya. So the name is a misnomer, number one. Where is Allah? As a questioning for place is invalid, textually and intellectually. The hadith, saying the famous hadith, famous in hadith terminology means something, and that hadith is not famous, right? Even in hadith terminology. Move on. The shepherd girl, the hadith, that one is a slave girl, right? So just identifying the hadith itself has many points that we would talk about, right? Just from the question. So we would correct the question, we would correct the terminology, but this is, as for common people, we won't do all that. I'm just giving you, if we talked about it from an academic, even the question needs to be corrected before we even answer. Points of the question needs to be fixed, right? But like I said, we're common people, so it's a given. So what we do is we skip all that and we understood what is being asked and we go to it. But if we were being technical, we would just fix the question first, right? Do you get my point? Do y'all follow what I just said about that? So even in our questions and answers, we are mukallid. We are like followers. We're not asking even proper questions the way we ask them, because we don't know. I mean, that's fine. It's not a problem. That's not our job. We have to learn even how to properly ask a question. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Nothing at all. No one should feel less than or no, we have to learn, right? I don't know that there's certain terminology, how we describe hadith, and that hadith is a certain type of hadith that must be explained, because if I use the wrong words, it's going to give the wrong inference. I don't know all that. I'm talking about as a common person. Scholars know that. You follow my point? Scholars know that. I'm not a scholar. So that's why you don't ask me for my proof. You ask me from where did I get my stuff, right? Not proofs. That's not my job. So the slave girl hadith, right, is not an evidence to say that Allah is in a place. And none of the scholars use that hadith as an evidence to establish a place for Allah, except al-mushabbiha and al-mujassima, except those who are likening Allah to his creation or giving Allah bodily attributes. They're the only ones that use that hadith as a proof that Allah is in a location. In fact, the great scholars of Islam and the muhaddithun, the scholars of hadith, understood from that hadith the high rank of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not a location. And they negated place about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like Imam an-Nawawi. But to understand that, you have a lot of things you need to go in. You need to know knowledge of hadith. You need to know knowledge of aqidah. You need to know Arabic language and how words are used to express. And you need to know the difference between metaphors and figurative speech and literal speech. You need to know all that to understand properly the meaning of that hadith. Allah. Tell you. How do we apply what we are learning? I think that most of us understand the importance and necessity of following the madhhab. Okay. How do we take this and educate others about the importance without leading to fruitless arguments and debates? I would say this. Number one, we have to understand, and please take this, I'm going to take this down, the question, you can see it. Let's follow each other. Number one, I'm talking about us. I'm talking about us. Predominantly, we are African Americans. I'm not saying everybody's African American, but I'm talking about sometimes the question has context, right? And we should understand context, right? A'udhu billah. I'm going to say this as strongly as possible. Whoever believes that Allah sit above the arsh is a kafir. That's not permissible to say about Allah. To say that Allah sits is blasphemous. It's kufr. You cannot say it. You cannot believe it. If someone says that, they need to take their shahada over. If they believe it, because you could be quoting someone, that's an excuse. But if someone believes that Allah sits, they are not a Muslim. Period. No ambiguity about it. No, never do you find in the Quran and the Sunnah that Allah sits. A'udhu billah. That's blasphemy. That's kufr. You cannot say that. Just for that, I only skipped that because that's a serious, horrible mistake, right? And no one can say that. So, and that's the dangerous about those creeds. Allah does not sit. Anything that sits has an upper and a lower part that bends. And that is a body. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by consensus, is not a body. We cannot say that about Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Okay. So let me go back just to clarify that. Let me go back to that question. So predominantly, most of us are African Americans. And most of us, knowingly or unknowingly, have been influenced by Wahhabi thought and ideology, knowingly or unknowingly, right? So it's been in our communities the idea that we follow Quran and Sunnah, i.e., we don't follow a madhhab. That false idea has become like a standard idea. This idea, we follow Quran and Sunnah, which means we don't follow a madhhab. Right? So that's a context. So therefore, the base when you meet a person is that they've already been influenced by these ideas which are prominent in our communities. So therefore, take that into consideration when you're dealing with them, right? So that's number one. And I emphasize it all of the time, we're all in the same struggle. So when you approach such a person, it should never be an argument. It's always a discussion. Because I already know what we're all suffering from. So it's not an argument. We're talking. And when we talk, we may disagree. That's fine. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not going to lose no sleep because we disagree. Let's just get that part first. Now, how do we apply? First, we got to realize our status, right? We don't have an idea because of Wahhabi thought in our community what Islamic scholarship is, right? We don't have an idea of scholarship, right? So first thing we should establish is what is correct Islamic scholarship. What does that look like? Once we establish that, then we already exclude ourselves from that. I'm not a scholar. Once you understand what scholarship is, right? So let's give an example. You will have a person who is not even aware of the tools of a scholar, meaning the books in each field that are relied upon by scholars, right? What books do the scholars rely in each relative field of Islamic studies? So if he wants to study tafsir, what are the reliable books? If he wants to study hadith, what are the reliable books? If he wants to study al-fiqh, what is the reliable books? If he wants to study usul al-fiqh, what are the reliable books? If he want to study ulum al-hadith, what are the reliable books? If he want to study nahu and sarf, what are the reliable books? If he want to study seerah, what are the reliable books? Who are the authorities in the field? The person doesn't even know all of those things. There's no way they could be a scholar, right? They don't even know the tools, let alone how to become a scholar. You don't even know the tools that the scholars use, right? Once we understand that, that brings down the discussion, right? And the more we bring down the discussion, then therefore there's nothing to debate. We both establish we're not scholars. Okay, now what are we left to do? We're not scholars. We have to follow scholars. So now once we follow in scholars, how do we do that? We stages, if you understand what I point. And after we finish, then it's obvious that we're not scholars and we need to follow. We're there, that's it, no argument. And that's not going to happen overnight sometimes, because sometimes we're stubborn. Even though we know we're dead out of pocket, we'll still argue. But don't argue. It's like, come on, some things are obvious. You're not a lawyer. You're not. And I'll give you an example to the question to the brother, right? If I had a murder case, right? Even if I was innocent, but they charged me with murder, would you tell me go in the courtroom and defend myself? Any one of you asked that. I have a murder charge. I'm innocent. I didn't do it, but they charged me with murder. Would you tell me to go in the courtroom and fight the case by myself? Any of you. Go fight it yourself. Don't pay for a lawyer. You go take care of that. Would any of you suggest that to me? I'm asking you. I'm innocent. I didn't do it. Go fight your own case. And I'm going to make a joke and ask Abdul Kareem, Shuaib is a lawyer, right? I guarantee you, if I was in that case, Shuaib wouldn't take my case. He'd be like, yo, man, you better go get a lawyer. I said, all right, I got you. You my man. Nah, you better go get a lawyer. Shuaib, that's just my joke, right? You are a lawyer. No, you better go get a lawyer. This ain't no hit and run accident, Oh man, you guys are crazy. Right? So my point, right? We wouldn't do it. I'm saying you have a better chance of winning that murder case and beating it by yourself than you have of deducing legal rulings by yourself. For analogy purposes. you have a better chance of going in and beating that murder case by yourself than you have of deducing legal rulings of the sacred law by yourself. You understand my point? Is that point clear? Because we're talking to us, we're common people, so we need these analogies to make it make sense. You have a better chance of winning the murder case than you got of deducing legal rulings by yourself. And I'm saying, put it in context. Most of us, even the ones who know Arabic, don't know Arabic, if you understand my point. Most of us, even the ones who know Arabic, don't know Arabic. I'm talking in the context. Most of us, even the ones who know Arabic, don't know Arabic. Right? So therefore, you have no way of deducing rulings from the most eloquent Arabic that ever existed on the face of the earth, which is the Quran and the tongue of Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Listen to what I just said. Most of us, even the ones among us who know Arabic, don't know Arabic. Now, with that understanding, you're going to interpret the most eloquent Arabic ever spoken, which is the revelation from the Quran and the tongue of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You, the one who doesn't know Arabic, is going to interpret that. Come on, stop. Do you understand my point? Stop. Come on, stop. Now, let's take that and put that in context. They said about Imam al-Shafi'i, as an example, one of those mujtahid scholars, they said, Lisan al-Shafi'i hujjatu fil lugha. The tongue of Imam al-Shafi'i is a proof in the Arabic language. Did they say that about any of us? The tongue of Imam al-Shafi'i is a proof in the Arabic language. Did they say that about us? I'm talking about even the ones who know some Arabic. Did they say that about you? No. No, absolutely. So that's the one who knows some. What about the one who don't know Arabic, doesn't know any Arabic at all? What about that person? How are they going to extract legal rulings? This is insanity, you know. I mean, really, like, I know it's become normal, but this is insanity and very dangerous. Why? Because we're playing with our hereafter. And worse, our own hereafter, the hereafter of others. Right? Think about this. We're not only playing with our own hereafter, we're playing with the hereafter of others. This stuff is dangerous. Right? And it's all delusion. We know we're not like that. But we've been deluded to think we are more than we are. And that's the problem. We're not there. It's fine. Let's work and get there one day. But let's not, you know. I play a cop on TV. You know, come on, man. Stop. Is my point clear? And this is not a put down. Please don't act like, man, that guy putting people down. No, it's not a put down. It's putting us in our places so we don't keep destroying generations to come. We got to have some context where we belong. That's it. It has nothing more than that. Don't take it like, man, go over the guy, be knock. No, 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 no. Stop. We trying to save ourselves. We can't keep doing that. We can't keep just going all over the place. It's killing us, right? We can't do it. We have to slow down. And we don't know. I'll give you an example. I'm going to share this with you, right? It's a crazy story I'm getting ready to share with you. Please bear with me. So I'm going to show you the black journey, right? It's like crazy. I'm going to leave out the names, but I'm going to just tell the story, right? So in the late 80s, when I went overseas, right, we didn't know nobody. So I'm in Egypt. I don't know nobody. So I got to go. My plan is never to come back to America. I'm here and I'm going to figure it out. I'm a teenager, right? I'm just telling you the story so you can get my point. So I want to learn Islam. I'm here. I mean, I was been so-called thinking I was a Muslim since I was like 10 years old. So I got some stuff. I know a little Arabic. I can speak. I can move. I can do stuff, right? So I get to Egypt. I meet some Egyptians. And I had an address to an area to go live. I met an Egyptian here. Now, he's a businessman, got a restaurants. I don't realize that this guy was poor in Egypt and lived in the most poor place in the whole city in Cairo, the poorest section. That's where he's from. Because to me, he's businessman. No, he was poor. I don't know context. So I go and I have this address. That's all I have. I don't know nothing else. Never been out the country in my life. I have an address, right? I meet some people. They see the address. They was like, let me help you. Let me help you. You don't want to go there. So they helped me. They took me to another place, which is more where I should be living according to my standard. But we're doing some things. And after a while, I say, take me to that place because those people they're waiting for me. And I should go see them out of respect. When I go to the place, I'm not exaggerating. In those days, you can smell the place from a mile away. I'm not exaggerating. Egypt then don't look like Egypt now. Is a vast difference, right? Egypt in the 80s to what Egypt looked like now is night and day. You won't even recognize the places, right? You can smell the stench from a mile away. The stench from a mile away. No exaggeration. When you get close to that place, you better roll up your windows. Sewage just running in the streets and the kids playing in the sewage. That's where they were sending me. Right? I didn't understand the world. I didn't understand. They were good people, but I can't live here. I'm just giving an example. So then I come back and I meet some friends from America. One person, wasn't my friend, but people who knew people who knew people. It was an American studying. This guy, he don't know. He's hanging out with terrorists. Because they got long beards and garbs and talking junk against the government. And from my context, they soldiers. These are terrorists. You don't know. We would visit masjids. This is in the 80s. Right? The guys don't got no lights. They got guards all around the masjid, on the roof. They let you in by walkie-talkie. You didn't figure something's wrong? No, these are real soldiers. hell? What? This is what you're thinking in your mind. This is before any terrorism in America. You're in Egypt. There's nothing in America. None of this stuff is happening. Right? Then you're listening. All you hear is talk against the government. And in your mind, you don't even realize you think this is Islam. And you see the sheikh, and you're like, MashaAllah, he's knowledgeable. You don't know, right? You're open to anything. Years later, right? Come to find out, now I know nothing about Wahhabi, Salafi, I ain't none of that stuff, right? Come to find out, that same place, that same sheikh, that same stuff was those same people that eventually came to America and caused all this fitna that we go through today. And show you how the funny thing comes. When they come, I meet those guys in the feds. And at that time, I had already studied. I came back to America. So I recognized their mistakes. And I was talking to them in the feds. Like, and they were in the community with us. I'm like, man, this stuff is crazy. They didn't even realize what they was doing religiously. They never learned religion. They spoke Arabic and they Egyptians, but they didn't know. But now we're all in jail together in the feds, and they're learning. They was like, we never heard this stuff before. We were in Egypt and didn't know it. This is common people, right? They don't know. So I'm giving you example how you could be in a mess just because you don't know. That's us across the board in a lot of religious matters. We don't know. So in order to get us from these ideas, we got to understand our real status of understanding things. We don't know a lot of stuff. The religion hasn't been taught to us like that. We don't know. Now, alhamdulillah, I was connected with teachers in Azhar, which kept me away from that stuff, right? But some didn't get that, right? Alhamdulillah, the Azhari teachers were like, get away from those people. I didn't know, right? Especially when I'm looking at the Azhari people, it really will make you like, oh my goodness, you don't even got a beard and you smoke cigarettes. What are you talking about? But as a kid, that's how you look at things. You're not looking at knowledge. You ain't looking at none of that, right? So I'm just saying, right? That's us. If you get my point, that's us. We don't know. We have to learn. And then as we learn, we'll protect ourselves, right? But if we stay on the route, just blind, not knowing anything, and just being parrots, we're gonna be a mess, right? And that's our reality. We have to fix it. That's all I'm saying, right? I'm just giving you the equivalent of what we're doing, and it may not be that serious, but it could be. Because had Allah not protected me from that, I could be in jail for the rest of my life hanging out with those people and had no idea what they were about. Just watching the apparent, right? Just watching the apparent, they could have ruined my whole life, right? Could have ruined my whole life. Alhamdulillah, Allah protected me. And it was just trying to be a Muslim, not knowing, right? Not knowing. That's it, right? That easy. That's my only point. And in the time we live in, especially with us, you'll be shocked. It's so many factors to destroy us from ever becoming a strong Islamic community. I'm talking about in our own community. Man, they got agents teaching us Islam, FBI and CIA agents, right? Undercover teaching the religion. All kinds of crap we face with. So we have to learn. We have to learn. And spreading Wahhabi stuff. We have to learn. It's sad, but it's real. It is what it is. What we going to do with it? We just have to learn. We just have to learn. We have to learn. I told someone the other day, I said, listen, obey Allah in everything you do. Stay away from the unlawful and rely on Allah. That's it. And in order to do that, you have to learn your religion. Obey Allah in everything you do. Stay away from the unlawful and rely on Allah. That's all you can do. But in order to do that, you have to learn. That's it. So I want to ask a question before we close. I know we're on overtime, and inshallah, but it's serious. Are these points clear? Do you understand what I'm trying to get at? Abdul Wali, can I share a story without mentioning names, but the story is important? Do you mind? And you won't get mad at me? Because this is an important story. Can I share it? You know what I'm talking about, but I won't mention names. Is it okay with you? Abdul Wali, can I share our story without mentioning names? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Now he's silent. Now his keyboard don't work. Oh my goodness. You're a funny dude. Okay, thank you. That is this Wahhabi person, right? He calls himself Salafi or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the heck he calls himself, but he's Wahhabi, right? But he wavers. He's a politician, in my opinion. It's my thought. That didn't say it's politics, Islamic politics. He wavers, and he acts like he studied classical knowledge, but he mixed it with his Wahhabi stuff. So there was a sheikh who was strict, strong Ash'ari scholar. From his words, it's obvious, right? The guy takes the knowledge of the sheikh, says, I study with the sheikh and other Sunni sheikhs, and he goes to people acting like he learned from them, people who don't know. They don't know Arabic, they don't know, right? And acts like he learned from them and changed the words of the sheikh. So one of the students sent me the sheikh's words, particular words that this person had translated, or a portion of it. And I said, what the heck is that? I called the person. I said, this guy is shaitan in human form. He's a bold-faced liar. Anyone who knows Arabic and listen to the word of the sheikh would never come away with that. It is the extreme opposite of what the sheikh says. and the person knows me, I said, if you think that Imam Amin is hardcore Ash'ari, you need to listen to that sheikh by someone who knows Arabic. The sheikh started his speech by calling those people shaitanic so-called Salafis. That was his words. And he mentioned them by name. They're scholars and everything. And this guy changed the whole words of the sheikh and teaching people that. The new words. I said, A'udhu Billah. What kind of stuff we dealing with? At least you can be honest and say, this is what he said and I disagree. Not change his whole words and affiliate yourself with him and then give it to people. That is shaitanic if I ever heard it. Just say I disagree. I don't agree with him, even though I studied with him. But to lie and to change his words when the words are right in front of you, that's like incredible. That's incredible. Like, how could you do that? What kind of person are you? What kind of shaitan is that? Like, it's obvious. Like, he didn't leave one point out in refuting the Wahhabiyya ideology. Not one point. He even talked about the hadith of the slave girl. He talked about giving Allah bodily, everything. He didn't leave nothing out. And you come up and change the whole meaning of the talk. And then actually put it on the internet. Like, you crazy, man. But this is what we're dealing with. And this is acting as an imam. That's funny, Imam Fahim. They call it tahqiq. He was editing the work. No. And I was telling some, this is crazy. Unbelievable. I was shocked. I mean, because I can understand a person, right? They believe something. And that's your belief. All right, cool. But that's not your belief. You altered the other person's belief. Intentionally. Because I'm assuming, you said you study, so I'm assuming you know at least some basic Arabic, even if you're not, fluent. You know some basic stuff. And if you know some basic Arabic, there's no way in the world you could have misinterpreted that. It's impossible. He's too explicit. It's impossible to misinterpret. Even a third grader would have picked that up. So what are you doing? What are you doing? That's shaitanic. I cannot imagine doing that to even my enemy. I'm not going to do that. Like, I wouldn't do that. This is what he said, and I totally disagree with it. I'm not going to change his words. I mean, come on. To make them my words. A'udhu billah. This is what we're faced. So we have to learn. That's it. All right. I'm going to stop in a minute. I'll answer this last 2 or 3 questions and we'll stop. That's why we got to be in our place and then learn and gradually, because there are people just, I don't know what the heck they doing. Like, and why? It's easy to say, listen, I'm not a scholar. I'm trying to learn my deen. I know a little bit more than you. Let's help each other. That's our reality, right? Let me say that again. I'm learning just like you. I may know a little bit more than you, and we're trying to help each other learn. There's some things I'm going to have right. There's some things I'm going to have wrong. There's some things you're going to have right, and there's some things you're going to have wrong. Together, inshallah, we'll fix all this stuff. Together. That's the idea, right? And it's going to have its kinks, of course. It's going to have its kinks. We're going to miss some stuff, right? But together, inshallah, we'll get it in time, right? So our ego goes out the window then. You could teach me some things, it's possible. And I could teach you some things, that's possible too. So if we're both, all of us are humble enough, we're going to help each other, right? Get out our egos. You ain't like that anyway, so why are you ego tripping? Right? Like, knock it off. It's fine. So let me take that last two questions. I just hope we get this point. At least we get it, and it's a start. Right? When we read Quran, during Ramadan or any other time in English or Arabic, what is the proper approach in reading when we are aware that the English is corrupted and we don't know the meaning in Arabic? Ask the people of knowledge. Ask the people of knowledge. So we should be in contact with people who know more than us. And we should get to know each other so we know trustworthy people from untrustworthy people. Listen, we all in the same boat, right? And then, hopefully among us, some of us can read Arabic enough to read the classical commentaries of the Quran, which are available, and we can read them and we can look and we can get the proper understanding. It's enough of us who know Arabic. We can help each other. We don't need, like we think we need a bunch of people. Many of us lived overseas for decades. Together, we have hundreds of years of Arabic experience together. Maybe individually we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. But when you put us together, you have a lot of years of experience. We can help each other. The books are there. So there's a verse we come across, it's confusing. I know so-and-so knows Arabic, so-and-so studied with such and such teachers. Let's ask them. And then that person, if he doesn't know, he's going to point us to somewhere. We'll get it. That's how we solve. We don't start making our own opinion. Say, I don't know, and we go ask. That's it. Right? I don't know. This sounds confusing. Let me go ask. If you want classical accepted commentaries, you can have Tafsir al-Tabari, Tafsir al-Qurtubi, and Tafsir Ibn Kathir. If you combine by those three tafsirs, because they're tafsirs, they have riwayat, they have hadith, they have things, and there are others. I'm just giving you an example. If you combine between those three with a teacher, mostly anything you want to talk about the Quran is going to be explained properly. There are many other great tafsirs, right? But I'm talking about three that are well known among everybody, right? Tafsir al-Tabari, Tafsir al-Qurtubi, Tafsir Ibn Kathir. You put those three together, you pretty okay. You're going to be good, right? If you understand my point. That's easy. Now for me, I read other books of tafsir that I like better, right? They're much shorter. They're more Sunni to me. Like I like Tafsir al-Baghawi. That's a tafsir I love, right? It was the love of Imam al-Haddad, and I love Imam al-Haddad, and I love Tafsir al-Baghawi. But there are many other tafsir that we could read. We can look, and they're available. And what I don't understand, we have people who do understand better than me. We ain't confused. It's not like before. No one can just fool us. Them days are gone. If someone fools us now, it's our fault. It's too many of us in our community who know Arabic language and who have traveled and who have sheikhs and who have chains of narration. In our time, we have, it's equal. The playing field is leveled. We just got to work. So the days of us being deceived, that's our fault. Our arrogance and our refusal to learn, because it is available. And that's why we have the Black Imams Roundtable. That's why we do stuff like that, so that you'll know, listen, And we bring, that's why we had the summit, and we bring teachers so you can see what we have, right? It's not just one individual. We have a lot of people, and together we are fortress. Together, right? I just gave you other books, right? At-Tabari, Al-Qurtubi, but those are bigger. Ibn Kathir is, so if you want to go by size, At-Tabari's large, Al-Qurtubi is in between. Ibn Kathir is small when we're talking about major books of tafsir. Now, if you want to get fancy, you can leave Tafsir al-Razi, Tafsir al-Kabir, right? That's huge, but that's way above our pay grade for most of us, right? Al-Bahr al-Muhit, Abu Hayyan, this big tafsirs. You got all kinds, right? But it's not a tafsir class. I'm just giving you, we don't got to be confused about the Quran, right? We have access, it's available, widespread among us, right? Easy. You don't have to be confused, right? And like I said, when we get out our own way, right, we can check, we can read. If you don't understand, ask someone who knows more than you, he'll show you. But the book is there, so you can't lie. Not going to be like that guy who takes the words and change, and we're going to catch you. That's not what that means. So you could be mistaken, and then someone's going to correct your mistake. You may misunderstood. That's possible. You're a human being. But we got someone who's going to what? Correct it. That's it. It's easy, right? And whatever the mistakes are, you'll catch them. And together we'll catch them all. That's it. Simple, easy, not hard, not difficult. But we have to be willing to use our strength together. Individually, we'll get picked off all the time. As a group, with all of our talents, it's hard to pick us off. Individually, we'll get picked off easily. As a group, with all our collective talents, can't pick us off. I'm not talking about translations at all here. I'm talking about Arabic language. I'm talking about the original Arabic books. And does tafsirs have mistakes in them? Yes. That's why I gave you more than one. Right? Right? I'm not talking about translations at all. That's not my discussion. I'm talking about Arabic language only. So the translations, none of them are full translations anyway. So the Ibn Kathir you have is not a complete translation. It's summarized. Even the big one is missing stuff. I'm talking about the original Arabic books. Do y'all follow my point? When I'm talking this discussion, I'm not talking English language at all. We're talking about original sources. That's it. And like I said, there are mistakes in books of tafsir, right? But that's why I gave you more than one. So you can compare, you can see what other scholars said, and then you learn the field and you see what is the weighty opinions and what are the weak ones. It will happen. But all of this is with teachers, you know. I keep telling you, we need teachers. So you have access to teachers. It's easy. It's not that hard. And we got to get that in our communities. And this is something we have to do for ourselves as individual community. We have to protect ourselves, or we're going to be exploited, period. Either we protect ourselves or others will exploit us. That's it. Protect yourself, cooperate with others. That's it. Protect yourselves, cooperate with others. But you must protect yourself. Don't expect no one else to do that for you. Right? And I'm still learning those hard lessons today. They hurt, right? To really believe that people don't have our best interests at heart is a hurtful feeling. It hurts. It really hurts. For real. I have teachers I love, but I realize they don't care nothing about us. That hurts. Man, that hurts. It make you want to cry because I love you, but you don't care nothing about me. That's bad. But it's real. I got to accept it. You show it to me all the time. What else can I do? I have to accept and I have to learn and I have to protect myself and I have to protect my family and my people. That's it. And if you want me to feel different, stop treating me the way you treat me. Stop treating my people the way you treat my people. Then maybe I'll feel different when you act differently. But so long as you're doing this stuff, I have to protect myself and my family. Is it okay to read the tafsir in the English translation? You don't have a choice. You have to do what you do while learning. I'm not to tell you don't read no books so someone can control you. No, you read, but learn at the same time and be available to say, I make some mistakes. This may be wrong. And ask someone who knows me to help me. And you keep learning. It's a learning process till you die. It's not going to stop. It's a learning curve. You have to travel the road. That's it. Listen, you're not going to know everything. And you have to do the best with what you have. That's it. If someone tells you don't read books, that means they're trying to control you. Why don't you help me with the books? If there's mistakes, show me the mistakes and help me. To tell me don't read no books, just listen to me. No, 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 no. No, we can't afford. We've been doing that and see where it got us. No, we're not doing that. I don't care how you feel about it. No, we're going to continue to learn. And we're going to be able to follow through. We're not disregarding the teacher, but we're going to keep learning while the teacher teaches us, and we're going to examine. And one day we'll understand. It takes time. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, right? And don't take that element out. People have tried to deceive us, right? That's it. No, Khadijah, you do know stuff. It's just some stuff you need to learn. Just like I know some stuff, and there's some stuff I need to learn. It's not something to make us think we're not valuable. We are valuable. And you have talents that I don't have. And I have talents that you don't have. And we need to bring that together and find a ground which we can cooperate with one another. Right? That's how we got to do it. It's no big I's and little U's. Right? We don't need to be rulers over one another. We need to help one another win so we can all make it to Jannah. Right? That's why I'm never afraid to have a discussion with someone who knows more than me, because I'm going to learn. Right? I'm never afraid to have a discussion or intimidated with someone who knows more than me. It's a pleasure for me. Right? MashaAllah, let's do it. Right? Why? Because it's going to be a benefit. Right? It's going to be a benefit. If you're a sincere seeker of knowledge, you're going to benefit from that. Right? That's it. All right. Lastly, I'm on a mission, and we're on a mission as a 3453 family, and we need your help. We have a goal doing, and I would like to complete it as fast as possible. I told you about it yesterday. We have the Reviving of the Hearts campaign that we're doing for Ramadan. And it is in the Ramadan, month of Ramadan, we want to raise $30,000 towards our effort of da'wah, because we have a lot of things we want to do after Ramadan, traveling around the country, visiting you face to face. Internet is great, but face to face is a whole nother level. And we need to go all around the country to meet you where you're at, to help you in your community, to build in your community. And we've done successful models of that. Philadelphia is one. Alhamdulillah, they are up and running. They are moving. And we were able to monthly go with them. All of us come, we share, we learn, mashallah. But we need other places. We need to go to other places and teach people. Right? So we need your help. We do. Because hopefully it's not about just one location. We have to help our people everywhere, where they're at. And we need support to do that. So please, if you can yourself aid the mission by way of your own contributions, do it. Do as much as you can. If you can't, you can share it with everybody you know. Don't consider no one out. Send it to them. Let them decide what they're going to do. But from your side, make a noble intention to support and share it. Everyone, please put it on your pages. I encourage you. Yes, we're waiting. We want to come to Miami. And inshallah, we're working on it after Ramadan, inshallah. And we don't want one trip. We have to go back to New Mexico. We have to go to Kansas, to go back to Pittsburgh. We have to go to Chicago. We have New York as well. I miss New York. I was in New York for about 8 to 10 years, regularly, weekly, for years. And a lot of the people, we met them in New York. They met us in New York. And we need to spread. We need work. So in order to do that, we need your support. Because none of us are rich. So we can do what we can, but we have families, we have our own communities, and that stuff eats up money, so we need your help. Let's get it done. That's why I asked you yesterday, seriously, where's our 3453 family? Because it takes a village. It takes a village to get this work done. And we have to think like that, right? And you ask the people from Philadelphia or those who came to our gatherings in Philadelphia, what's happening on the ground. They'll tell you it's working, right? Yeah, I agree. And listen, it's about building the areas. No one, and please make this clear, not myself, not Imam Naeem, not Imam Fahim, not Sheikh Walid, not Sheikh Yahya. None of us and others, Sheikh Abdul Karim, none of us are looking for you to follow us. Nobody. We just want you to learn and then work together as a family. No one is looking for followers. And anyone who's a leader will understand quickly why we're not looking for followers. It's a headache. We just want us to learn and build our communities. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Right? So nobody want to be your sheikh. No one wants you kissing their hands. None of that. We just want you to learn. That's it. And we want to facilitate the ability for you to learn. Right? That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Right? And really, it's important. But we need to get this done. There is another thing that I want to say quickly about this campaign. It shows other people how serious we are about our own selves, and that will also encourage them to help. I'm going to repeat that. When we do good with our own efforts, it shows others that we are serious and others are inclined to help. When we show we're serious, you know? Right? We have to show we're serious about our own stuff. Can't be just talk. We actually have to do some things. And when we do it, mashallah, it works. Right? And that's why, and another thing, lastly, I always say lastly, and I have another 20 minutes after the lastly, right? Um, when we come together on the ground, you get to know people and you can smell what they really do. You can sense it. You can't do that on the internet. As far as you know, I'm just on the internet talking junk. And that could be possible. But when you physically meet me and you be around me and you see me and you meet the other imams and you meet the other brothers and sisters that are here, you get to physically sense what they really about, right? You get to know, whoa, 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 okay, they serious. They're not just online. You get to meet their families. You get to meet their children. You building relationships which help you do the work, right? Right. I'm not giving khutbah. I'm not giving the khutbah anymore. I have Sheikh Abdul Aziz to do that, right? Now I can do this part because we worked hard and we got someone else to do that. He go do that. So this is my khutbah right here. We worked hard. He's graduate from Azhar. Come on, Azhari boy, go give the talk. Stop. Alhamdulillah. All right, may Allah reward y'all. Please, please, please share the campaign. Do whatever you can do. And the other way it works, the faster we get people to contribute and donate, the more it spreads. Because Launch Good will push it themselves when they see we're moving fast. Keep that in mind. When we donate, Launch Good will push it and they will help. But if it's look like it's a campaign that ain't doing nothing, they don't even help. It's like they got this concept because they benefit. So if we push it and we do good, then they will push it and we'll reach our mark, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.